Hi guys, it's Caitlin, and today I am here to bring you my review of Season 2, Episode 1 of Shadowhunters, entitled This Guilty Blood. As I normally do with these reviews, I'm going to do three main parts. The first part is going to be my general spoiler-free review, followed by my grade rating for the episode, followed by a general overview of what happened in the episode, and finally ending with my thoughts step-by-step per scene as they occurred. So there are a lot of changes that were made between Season 1 and Season 2. My understanding is there's new showrunners. It looked like there was a larger budget for this season. But there were also a few things that I didn't enjoy about it. Among the things I liked, though, was they changed the intro, and I think the intro is way better than it used to be. The special effects are far superior, the weapons are far superior, and just the scenes felt more natural in general. Like, there weren't these awkward, stunted interactions, but I did have several issues. Chief among them is the fact that whoever is choosing the music for this season so far is doing a terrible job. There were multiple scenes where the only thing I could think about was, this music is atrocious. And not only was it horrible music, like the music volume versus the dialogue volume was a little bit off, so like I could barely hear or I couldn't understand what the characters were saying because this horrible music was playing too loudly. One of my other issues with it was that there were a lot of scenes where the characters would do things that didn't make any sense to me. Like, I didn't understand their motivation. It was a lot better in general, I think, than Season 1, but I did have quite a few issues with it. I didn't really feel anything for any of the characters. I just kind of walked away from this episode not being like, wow, what's gonna happen next? But just kind of being like, it was okay. I give this episode probably a B, but if it was from Season 1, it probably would have been like an A-, but I'm holding Season 2 to a higher standard than Season 1, so for me, today, it's a B. So essentially what happened in this episode was that the Institute was placed on lockdown following Jace taking off with Valentine, and then you find out that the Clave has sent a representative named Aldertree to lead the New York Institute. Aldertree immediately starts an investigation into what happened with Jace leading up to his leaving, and pretty soon he issues an alert that Jace is wanted dead or alive. And obviously that doesn't go over very well for people, and all of Jace's friends are essentially told that they aren't allowed to leave the premises because they're not going to help Jace. They think he's a traitor working with Valentine because he had chances to kill Valentine and chose instead to save his friends. As per usual, Jocelyn does stupid shit that kind of screws Clary over because Jocelyn still thinks she knows best, and Jace and Valentine's relationship is put to the test more than ever because Valentine reveals that Jace has demon blood and starts trying to brainwash him into thinking that he's evil and he has this destiny to fulfill of corruption and evil and hurting people and not obeying the rules. Overall, it was an okay episode, but I do feel like not that much happened. The Alec and Magnus stuff really didn't seem to have any main bearing on the situation at all. Isabel and Clary didn't really have anything going on. Simon, nothing really like arcing for the plot. So the episode begins with just kind of opening up on the ship. And there's corpses everywhere, and Jace is just kind of like looking around at all of these bodies. And I don't fully remember what happened at the end of Season 1, but I don't know why all these corpses are there. Was there like a huge battle between Shadowhunters that I just don't remember? I don't know, but essentially there's just bodies everywhere, and Jace is just kind of wandering around looking horrified. And then Clary shows up, and he's telling Clary to leave, but she doesn't leave. She's like, you have to come with me. And then Valentine appears and says they have to kill Clary. They have this like sword fight. They got rid of that awful blurring effect in the fight scenes. The weapons didn't look plastic and cheap and stupid. And overall, I just thought it was a lot better than it has been in previous episodes. So Jace kills Valentine. And that's the moment that you immediately know, yeah, no. They race into like the heart of the ship, and then Valentine reappears and attacks him, and so he fights Valentine again and flings him over the edge of this railing, and Valentine is impaled on the stick down below and is killed again. All of a sudden, that new dead Valentine morphs into this black man, and they find themselves in like this weird lab. It's like a downworlder prison or a downworlder zoo. And Clary is like, let's go back through this portal to get back to safety. And Jace is like, well, where's this portal? And she uses her stele. That word hurts me. To reveal a rune that changes her back into Valentine, because it was a disguise the whole time. And then Valentine declares that Jace's disloyalty has to be punished. This was a really long, convoluted scene that really accomplished nothing, especially like when you consider that like this scene and the next scene are like going a completely different direction, and then they're just completely tossed out the window like they never happened in every scene following Valentine and Jace after this. That's when the intro came on, and I freaking loved it. Like, the intro is so much better. The way the beat is, kind of the way the art is, their different poses and stuff in the intro look really, really good. I really like this intro a lot better than I liked last season's, and I didn't have much of a problem with last season's. I just think this one's way superior. Then we jump to the Institute, where they're having trouble contacting the Clave. They've been trying to get through to them, but they're not getting any responses, and they're starting to worry that something's going on. Magnus, Alec, and Isabel are all trying to track Jace. Isabel's trying to track him through like their high-tech stuff in the Institute. Alec is trying to track him through his Parabatai rune, and Magnus is trying to track him through one of his items and magic, and none of them are having any luck finding him. Then Lydia comes in and kind of is like, you guys need to stop and take a break. We're going to figure it out. We're going to get him back. Alec kind of starts yelling at her, taking out his anger on her, and she dismisses him entirely from the room. I really like Lydia still. I wish she had been in this episode more. I don't like that they took away her power and just kind of made her a backseat character. Like, I want her to be more involved in the upcoming episode, so I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. Then we jump to a scene where Jocelyn is kind of just like lurking in like this garden thing, and I recognize the garden from the books and from the movie, and I don't remember if we've been shown this garden in the show before. And then Clary shows up, and they have this confrontation in the garden where Jocelyn promises Clary that she's not going to try to protect her like that anymore. She's not going to tell her any more lies, at which point I was immediately like, bull fucking shit, bitch. Jocelyn is a lot like Clary in that she thinks she knows best, but she's sketchier than Clary. So after they kind of make up, Clary gives her the JC box and tells her, I know what this is. I used to think it was a box about Dad. I used to watch you cry over it at night when you thought I was asleep. But now I know it's for my brother. My brother's alive. His name is Jace, and he's fine. And the mom's like, no, that's not possible. Then we jump to Magnus and Alec on the roof of the Institute. They're talking about trying to track Jace, and they're having an argument, and I really didn't like the scene because I love Matthew Daddario. I think he generally does a great job as Alec. He makes the character so likable, but in this scene where Alec is yelling at Magnus, I just thought the acting was very poor. It almost seemed monotone. It just wasn't good acting, and it made me so sad because normally Matthew Daddario's acting is so on point, and I feel his emotions and I love him, but for me this time it just wasn't working. Then it jumps back to the garden where Luke and Simon join Clary and Jocelyn, and they start talking about how all the things have changed, and then Clary's phone goes off and she's like, oh, we have to go, and they go racing off to the heart of the Institute. I really like the fact that they have so much technology. Like, it's really modernized it and really kind of made things just kind of more simplistic and streamlined in how things are working in this series. Like, there are a lot of changes to the show that I'm not a huge fan of, but some of the things that they've changed I have really liked, and the technology is one of them because it just makes a lot more sense to me. When they get to the heart of the Institute, they discover that the Clave has declared this a state of emergency and has sent a representative from the Clave to act as the new leadership for the New York Institute. Lydia has been taken down. Whitewood parents have essentially kind of thrown Lydia under the bus as they're fucking assholes in this show. And you meet Aldertree. He is the representative from the Clave who is sent to run the New York Institute, and he immediately puts the Institute on total lockdown. They aren't searching for Jace. He's going to interview everybody to try to figure out what happened with Jace and to try to find out where Jace is. Isabel and Clary are kind of worried about it, but Isabel looks at Clary and is like, don't worry, Jace is tough. Valentine won't break him. And then we jump back to the ship where Jace is tied up and being beaten bloody by like dozens of men. And then Valentine shows up, and within a minute of showing up and telling them to stop, he just Arad sees Jace, heals him entirely, lets him down, and he's like, hey, come with me. And then they just walk away like nothing happens. Then we jump back to the Institute where Clary is called into the office to speak with Aldertree. Starts asking her all these questions about Jace, like, oh, he knew, oh, he went with Valentine. And she starts telling him, look, he warned us, we didn't listen, he was trying to get a hold of us, he saved our lives. And Aldertree basically twists her words and is like, so Jace knew. Which I guess technically he was twisting her words, but he was also right. So I don't really know how to feel about that. And at this point, his motives were unclear because while I was sitting there going, he's twisting her words, he doesn't like Jace, I was also like, but he's also doing his job. He's not being a manipulative jackass. He's just doing his job. Maybe this will turn out well. And then he kind of pulls out the big, Jace should have killed Valentine when he had the chance, even though all of you guys would have died. And that was the moment that I was like, he's kind of right. But also, this is not gonna go well. Then we jump back to the ship where Valentine and Jace are having dinner, and Valentine's like, spaghetti, it used to be a favorite when you were a kid. And then Jace pulls a knife on him and tries to stab him, and Valentine stops him, and then they have this whole big, like, confrontation, heart-to-heart argument, like, ask me your questions. Why did you leave me? Because I had to save you. Well, I thought I was an orphan. Well, you grew up stronger this way. I only grew up stronger this way because the Lightwoods raised me well. No, it was because of me. And then Valentine tells Jace, your mom left you to die in Idris. And then he does like this weird like magic hand punch into the stomach. At least that's how I perceived it. I might have been completely wrong. I don't know. And then Jace's eyes turn white and roll back into his head, and he sees in the past where Valentine is injecting Jocelyn's belly with something while she's pregnant. You know, in the books, he was slipping like blood into her drink, and in this he was like stabbing giant needles into her belly, and I kind of think she would have woken up for that. So that was one change I didn't really think made any sense. And that's basically when Valentine reveals to Jace that Jace is not a normal Shadowhunter. He has demon blood, he is part demon, and Jace dies inside. Then jumps back to the Institute where Alec and Magnus are arguing. Alec is like, you have to help me. But Magnus is like, I'm going home. At my house, there's steak and vodka. And at that point, you really know that he and Alec are not okay right now. Alec is all butthurt about it. They get in an argument. Magnus reveals that he feels used because none of the things that have happened for Magnus's sake. None of the stuff that Alec has done has been because he cares about Magnus. It's all for his own selfish desires. He didn't leave Lydia at the altar because he cared for Magnus. He left Lydia at the altar because he didn't want to marry Lydia. And then all of a sudden, all these alarms go off. They all go racing to the heart of the Institute where this big hologram of Jace has popped up and is spinning around in one of their center computers, and it says, wanted, dead or alive. And everybody except me was shocked. Aldertree comes in and is like, yeah, Clary gave me the information. Thanks for that. Everyone looks at Clary like, bitch, what did you do? And then Aldertree kicks out the Downworlders. He kicks out Magnus. He kicks out Luke. He kicks out Simon. And Simon's like, it's almost daylight. I'm a vampire. Where am I supposed to go? Aldertree's like, you're smart. You'll figure it out. Fuck you, guy. You're a dick. Luke takes Simon to the Jade Wolf because he says that he can keep him protected there. And then Luke gets a phone call and has to go do something. And all the werewolves who've been sitting in the restaurant that whole time descend on poor Simon. He tries to incanto them, epically fails. I thought it was like that Star Wars thing, like, I'm not the droid you're looking for. But nope, he was trying to incanto. And I think he thought it was a spell from Harry Potter because he would just kept looking at them and saying, you do not have a problem with me. Incanto. 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 Like, that's not how that works, honey pie. One of the werewolves declares that he is the worst vampire ever, and then the werewolves grab him, throw him in a supply room / garage thing, and lock him in there. So he jumps up into a canoe and sleeps there. And that was probably my favorite scene of the whole episode, was him snuggling up like a dead guy in the canoe. Jump back to the ship where Valentine is beginning to try to brainwash Jace further. He's talking about the fact that Downworlders cannot control their demon blood, and they will always turn on the people. Even if they're trying their best to be good, they will always be ruled by their demon blood. When Jace is like, well, if it's so uncontrollable, why did you inject me with demon blood? And Valentine goes, to fight fire with fire. Jace starts to kind of like look over the edge of the ship, and I'm not sure if he was like planning suicide or just trying to escape, but Valentine turns and looks at him and he's like, "You don't want to jump." And Jace is like, "What? Why?" So Valentine grabs this passing man and just shoves his face into like this invisible force field on the side of this ship, and the guy's face disintegrates, and then he just kind of drops him and he's like, "It's up to you, man. It's up to you." Then we jump back to the Institute where Clary and Isabel are training and they're being watched by Aldertree. I really wish the music had been turned down because I feel like something happened in that scene other than them practicing, but I couldn't hear a word that Isabel was saying. Like, I could kind of hear it, but the music was not only awful to listen to, but it totally drowned out her words, and I don't know what happened in that scene, other than I think that she gave Clary a hint as to how to go rescue Jace. Then Alec leaves the Institute to go to Magnus's house, but Maris follows him and basically tells her, "Jace is not your brother, you need to forget him. When you have a cancer, you cut it out." And he says, "You're not trying to save me from a cancer, you're trying to save your own ass. This has no negative effect on you, and all you care about is yourself." Then we jump back to the Jade Wolf, where Aldertree appears, runs into Luke, and is like, "I need your help." Luke is like, "You kicked me out, remember? Not my problem." And then Aldertree is like, "Oh shit, yeah." Runs the stele over the rune and reveals that Aldertree was actually Clary in disguise. Luke tells her that Simon is in the supply room, so she goes in there to join him, and then he immediately calls somebody to say, "Yeah, Clary's here, she's safe." And that's when you know that Jocelyn's gonna come fuck everything up, as per fucking usual. Jocelyn shows up, reveals that she told Aldertree that Clary left and that got his permission to leave to go bring Clary back. Clary is pissed. She tells her, "I'm lying. I came here to help you guys find Jace." So they're all excited and they're like, "Okay, well, none of my methods to find him are working." And Jocelyn's like, "That's because there's a method you don't know about. Give me your stele and give me your phone." And I'm like, "Oh, Clary, bitch, don't do it. Bitch, don't do it. Bitch, don't do it." And she gives them to her. And then Jocelyn runs out and locks the door behind her. And like, I feel like they probably could have like stopped her. Like, as soon as she started running, they should have like started running too and like slammed into the door before Jocelyn could lock them in. Totally saw that coming, and I just feel like everybody should have seen that coming because it just fits in with everything Jocelyn has ever done ever. Then we jump to Magnus's apartment where Alec has showed up and he's apologizing. And they make up, and the smile on Matthew Daddario's face gives me life, and it just makes me so happy. And then we jump back to the supply room where Simon and Clary are still stuck. Simon is like speed demoning and slamming into the door over and over and denting it, but he's not really making any difference. And Clary's finally like, "Just stop, we're trapped." And so he sits down next to her and he's like, "I'm enjoying our together time." And then they start reminiscing about the time that they last did something like this, which was when they broke into Simon's mom's liquor cabinet and they had their first hangovers, and she's like, "This is worse than that." And then they laugh and say, "No, it's not." And I really loved that scene, like their whole like bonding time, the fact that they're finally catching up and talking to each other like friends again for the first time in quite a while just made me really happy and made me feel really good. And it seems like Simon is about to tell Clary how he really feels about her, and then the door just falls down. So Simon and Clary are able to get out, and they're using Simon's phone to track Clary's phone to track Jocelyn. Meanwhile, Jocelyn is tracking Jace, Alec and Magnus are tracking Jace, and the Institute finds Jace because he comes through a portal with Valentine and ends up on land. Valentine brought Jace through a portal to go to this place called Reggie's Pizza. It used to apparently be the best pizza place in town until Reggie's wife Maria was turned into a vampire and slaughtered him and changed it into a den. He keeps telling Jace that he's evil. Jace is starting to believe it. He hears screams from inside, breaks in to try to save the people. He saves the people, sends them out, and then he yells, "Who's Maria?" Maria and a horde of her vampires come out after him. He kills a bunch of them, runs. Then we jump back to Aldertree, where he orders that Alec and Isabel be held because he knows where Jace is and they're going to go catch him / kill him. We jump back to the pizza place where Jace is killing vampires, which apparently all you have to do to kill vampires these days is stab them in the stomach. I thought it was still a stake through the heart, but I guess the stomach works because I don't think I remember him stabbing even one vampire through the heart. And then they'd explode into glitter because thank you, Edward Cullen. And then we got some more really shitty music. That was really shitty. because shitty music is shitty. Then we jump to Clary and Simon, where Simon is like, we're getting close to Jocelyn. She's like, well, then run faster. And Simon's like, I'm a vampire. I'm running slow for you. And I love that. Like, I'm really enjoying the Simon humor and the vampire humor that they're finally starting to incorporate a little bit better. It just makes me happy. Simon's humor is so on point in this show, and I think it's getting better already in season 2 even than it was in season 1. Maria and Jace come out onto the street in front of Valentine, and right before Jace can kill her, Maria surrenders to the power of the clave. She says, I broke the accords, but I know that you're not going to, little Shadowhunter. Valentine eggs him on. Are you really going to let her get away with this? She cold-heartedly murdered her husband. She screams at them to leave her husband out of it, attacks Jace. He kills her. I feel like there's some sort of backstory going on with the fact that she killed her husband. She seemed genuinely upset about it. I doubt we're going to explore it, but I have a feeling that she was very sad about it, and I really wish that we had kind of been able to look at it a little bit more. But it doesn't really matter, because in that exact moment, Jocelyn appears with her frickin' like bow and arrow, like, I don't know, the automatic bow firer thing, and tries to kill Jace. Valentine shoves him out of the way, takes the arrow himself. Clary manages to hit Jocelyn right before she can kill Jace with her second arrow. And then Jace and Valentine disappear through another portal to God knows where, probably the ship. Clary turns and looks at her mother and is like, what have you done? And it's over. I'm going to keep watching this season. I'm going to keep doing my episode reviews. And I didn't think this episode was horrible, but it definitely wasn't my favorite. As a season premiere, though, it wasn't half bad. I'm seeing different directions that this whole series can take from here, and I'm really looking forward to it. I like that they're speeding some things up, slowing some things down, rearranging different events, creating new ones. I'm really liking this. I find what's happening so far in this season far more realistic and believable as far as what I know about the books. Like, it might not be staying true to the books, but at least now I'm not like, that's completely outside the realm of possibility. Like, to me, this could happen in this world. So that made me happy. So yes, that was my review of Shadowhunters Season 2, Episode 1. Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this episode, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you thought I missed anything, if you wanted to talk about a particular scene. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up if you liked my video, hit subscribe if you really liked it, and I will see you guys next week with my review of Episode 2.